Today we're going to be going over my top 15 tight ends in fantasy football. I'm going to try not to spend too much time on any of them specifically, try to spend a lot of time on the whole list evenly. Obviously there's some guys that's not going to require much explanation, so let's start with Brock Bowers at number 1. That's one of the guys that doesn't really require much explanation. He was number 1 in receptions last year. He was number 1 in yards last year, number 1 in yards after catch. All this for tight ends, of course. As a rookie, he did all of those things. The Las Vegas Raiders did not add to the pass catchers at all on this team. However, they did actually upgrade the quarterback, the coaching, so I really like Brock Bowers this year. He was number 1 last year, and there's no reason to me that he would not finish number 1 this season unless, that is, of course, we'll get to number 2, Trey McBride, he were to actually score touchdowns. That's really been his only thing so far in his career, is he just doesn't score touchdowns. Last season he only got 2, and previous seasons he doesn't score much either. Now I got to be completely transparent, I don't think this is a Trey McBride problem. I actually think this is probably more of a Kyler Murray problem. If you look at his career, he is no better ever than league average. That's like his peak at throwing touchdowns in the red zone. Maybe it's his height, can't see over the line in the condensed field. I'm not sure what it is, to be honest, but there's something about Kyler Murray throwing touchdowns in the red zone. Maybe it's because he's running in the red zone with the more condensed field. I don't really know what it is, but with all that being said, I don't know if Trey McBride himself can break out of that bubble of not really getting touchdown passes, so that is why he's going to remain number 2 comfortably to me, unless he can prove that he can actually get those red zone touchdowns. With all that said, he is still a fantastic number 2. I kind of spent a lot of time just crapping on him right there. He is a fantastic tight end, and of course, worthy of the number 2 tight end spot. I actually drafted him in a league just before filming this video, so in a mock draft, I should say. So definitely down for drafting Trey McBride. He was second last year among all tight ends in average fantasy points per game. He gets 29% of the targets on his team. That's second among tight ends. I am very, very high on Trey McBride, but again, trying to go through these first few guys because we all know the drill with them. Going number 3, George Kittle. My top 3 are exactly how the ADP top 3 are, and it's because the ADP top 3 is just correct. They got it right. Last year, George Kittle was the tight end number 3. That part I don't like. I'm sure they'll be mixed around a little bit, but I am very confident these, and barring injury, these 3 tight ends will be the top 3 tight ends of fantasy football in 2025. Last season, Kittle actually averaged the most fantasy points per game for all tight ends. He averaged 15.8 fantasy points a game. Long story short, he's just an excellent tight end, a tight end that I used to stay away from because I was so sure he had injury problems. And to an extent he does. He plays hurt a lot. But he's shown, especially in the past 2-3 years, that he produces when he plays, no matter what, even if he's banged up. So obviously he's no longer a tight end. I'm staying away from him. I'm not going to overthink this one at all. George Kittle is very, very good. He is actually tied with Trey McBride in red zone targets at 21 last season. So, and he actually rewards the team. Again, another Trey McBride diss. I'm not trying to diss Trey McBride. I think he's very good. I don't know why that keeps happening. But he scored 8 touchdowns last season. Again, I was just trying to speed through those 3 because they are everybody's top 3. Now let's go to number 4, where is the first one that I have different from the current ADP, and that is TJ Hockenson over Sam Laporta. Last season he finished as the tight end 34, but he did not play the whole season, of course. And even when he played, he really didn't look that good. This season, however, I fully expect him to go back to what he was pre-injury. His 2 healthy years in Minnesota, he finished as the tight end number 4 and the tight end number 2. They have a new quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, basically a rookie. I mean, he played 1 preseason game last season. That's it. So you basically have a rookie tight end going into, a rookie quarterback going into this season, and rookie quarterbacks tend to like their big body tight ends over the middle of the field as solid check down guys, just safer throw guys. So for that reason, I'm very for him. Something I stumbled into when I was doing this research and I was absolutely shocked about was that TJ Hockenson actually had a 35% target rate last season with Minnesota coming off the injury. So he didn't perform, but they still gave him a ton of opportunity to perform. And with a younger like J.J. McCarthy, I expect that number to maybe not be 35%. That actually is a lot, especially on a team with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones in the backfield. Like, That's actually a pretty big number that I don't expect to stay maybe that high, but similar. I still think he ends up being the second receiving threat to this team, especially with Jordan Addison expected to miss some time due to a suspension for his last season DUI. Truthfully, the only thing that really scares me about TJ Hockenson is the competition with how many mouths there are to feed in Minnesota, but I really like him. I think Kevin O'Connell really likes him. And again, a young quarterback typically likes his big tight end as a safety valve, so I just think he'll perform this year, which is why he is my tight end 4. Going to the tight end 5 in Sam Laporta. The reason he bumped down is because every time I was looking into some stats with him, I kind of got less and less interested in him. I had him all the way up as my tight end 3 over Kittle and Hockenson, and as I found more stats about the other guys and found more stats about him, he just kept dropping and dropping. Losing Ben Johnson scares me. Ben Johnson, obviously one of the best play callers in all of the NFL the past couple of years, so losing Ben Johnson scares me a lot. But something else that scared me as I did my research on him, with the emergence of Jameson Williams and Jameson Williams playing well and being a more vocal point in this offense, that has took a ton of targets away from Sam Laporta. 2 years ago, he would see 120 targets, whereas last season he only saw 83. I think a big piece of that is Jameson Williams getting more targets and being a more vocal point of this offense. However, in his defense, after week 10, that number shot up to roughly 14 points a game as he kind of found his groove a little bit. He only had 1 week after week 10 under 10 points. So there's a lot of consistency that you get with Sam Laporta. So I've gone away from him being a top 2, top 3 potential tight end. I just don't like the usage rate dropping since the emergence of Jameson Williams. So that's why he goes to my tight end 5. Next, we have Travis Kelce. Obviously, he is 35 years old at this point. Last season, he looked slower. You could just see it. He did not look as good as he used to look. However, last season, he still ended up as the tight end 5. With that being said, Xavier Worthy kind of came into the forefront last season. He's obviously back this year. But more importantly to me, they're bringing back Hollywood Brown. They're bringing back Rashee Rice, who's coming off an injury last season. And when he was healthy, him and Travis on the field at the same time, he kind of took Travis's role just from that slot position rather than the tight end position. He was eating up all the targets. Travis was getting next to none. So that part definitely scares me, and I honestly consider dropping him way down, like potentially closer to the 7, 8, 9, 10 range. The reason he still lands at 6 is because the more digging I did, the more I get this feeling that this Kansas City offense is going to be a pass-heavy offense once again. They all talk about how they want to be that again, but they just haven't really done it, and I think the majority reason of that is due to the lack of weapons. They don't have that this year. Rashee Rice is a legit receiver 1 to me. You have Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy who can really stretch the field. Travis Kelce's still good, so he's still going to be able to eat up that underneath and middle of the field area. I think we just see this offense kind of air it out more. They've been wanting to. I think they have the horses for it this season, so I think that's what we see. And that is why I still give Travis Kelce the 6th spot. He only got 3 touchdowns last season. However, he was first among all tight ends in red zone targets with 26. Touchdown luck will bounce his way this season. I'm fairly confident about it if he's getting 26 or similar number, 20 even red zone targets. So I think just based off touchdowns, he's going to kind of have a Mark Andrews role, I think, like previous year's Mark Andrews role, where he just ends up with a bunch of touchdowns, and that's why he ends up at the number 6 spot for me. Next, we have Evan Ingram at number 7. He's just going to be the safety blanket for Bo Nix. How I talked about Hockenson being McCarthy's safety blanket, that's what Evan Ingram's going to be. That's what he was for Trevor Lawrence, and it absolutely worked. Denver bringing him in isn't an accident. Like, they're going to use him at what he's good at, and that's just being the safety blanket. You're still going to have Courtland Sutton on the outside. You're now going to have Evan Ingram on the inside. I think he's just going to eat 100+ targets, to be honest with you. And if you're in a PPR league, that is just absolute gold, having that many opportunities, point per catch each time. That's gold for fantasy football PPR leagues. At number 8, I have David Njoku, who I got to be honest, I had him way down, like way lower than I should have, way further than I had any business putting him down to. I don't remember the exact number, but it was probably closer to 10 or 11. because of the quarterback situation. The quarterback situation scares me so much. After I look up stats and really looked into really looked into David Montgomery. Oh my gosh, David, I can't get the right name. I can't speak at all. Ever since I really looked into the stats at David Njoku, I realized like I'm out of my mind. I'm way overthinking this, and he needs to go way higher. And of course, I wanted to put him even higher than I did at 8, but the quarterback situation just was too much for me to overcome. I do think he starts the year off with Joe Flacco, and if that's the case, I really like not only Njoku but Jerry Jeudy. But the problem with both of them is I don't think that Joe Flacco ends the year. In fact, I think we could see them go through 2, 3, maybe even all 4 of their quarterbacks before the season is over. I think the Browns are just going to be a very dysfunctional team this season, and that scares me a lot. So even if he has a great connection with Joe Flacco early, will he have it late when it matters? You're in your fantasy football playoffs, and maybe Shedeur Sanders comes in and he doesn't throw to Njoku. He throws to Jerry Jeudy or something. That scares me. That terrifies me, and to the point where I have him at number 8, even though he's obviously a more talented tight end than Evan Ingram. At this point, even Travis Kelce. But I just don't like the situation that they're in Cleveland. But other than that, everything else I absolutely love about Njoku. He has a 30% target rate last season. He was averaging 13.5 fantasy points a game, which was 4th among all tight ends. He finished as the tight end 11 last season, and he had 11 games. He was 6th in targets among tight ends in 11 games, which leads us to Tyler Warren, who I actually haven't gotten to take a chance on mock draft yet. Not really the point of this video, but just something I thought I'd mention. With that said, he is a rookie this season. He is one of the better tight end prospects we've seen in a minute. In my opinion, he is going to be a red zone monster. Something about Indianapolis is we don't know who their quarterback's going to be. I actually kind of have a feeling it's going to be Daniel Jones. The early reports in minicamp were that Daniel Jones took the lead over Anthony Richardson, but there's also injuries with him. Who knows what's going on with Anthony Richardson? Things aren't looking good with him at all. With all that said, I don't know if it matters who the quarterback for him is, because I think something key about the Indianapolis Colts is that they don't have a legitimate wide receiver 1 on their team yet. I expect Josh Downs to eventually take that crown. I do like Josh Downs a lot this season. With that being said, they don't have one yet. I do think at the end of the day, that helps Tyler Warren more than anybody. They don't have a guy to throw to. That gives Tyler Warren, a rookie who usually has to work his way up the ladder, an opportunity to just go out and earn targets right away. Let's just move on to my number 10, who is Mark Andrews. Initially, I had Mark Andrews lower because I just think this is the year we see Isaiah Likely take the mantle as the number 1 tight end in Baltimore. It just feels like he gets more and more work every year. This feels like the year where he officially takes over the number 1 tight end role, especially with how last year ended and just the up and down nature of Mark Andrews last season. Feels like this is the season where they just give the role over to Isaiah Likely. With that being said, when I was looking at the stats, it's just hard to ignore the stuff that Mark Andrews puts up. The touchdown number is insane, and I don't think that goes away, to be honest with you. Even if Isaiah Likely is the number 1 tight end, I don't see Mark Andrews not being the touchdown monster that he is, which kind of almost makes both of them undraftable. If Andrews is getting literally no yards, they're all going to Likely, but then he's getting all the touchdowns and Likely ain't getting any touchdowns. That's scary thought to me. Looking at the fact that he leads in fantasy points per target with 2.74, he's second among tight ends of all of these are in fantasy points per route run. It just feels like, to me, the stats are too good for me just to leave him out of the top 10, even though I have this gut feeling, this inclination that Mark Andrews, his spot will be taken by the end of the season. The stats just look too good to just overrule them, I guess, to just ignore them. I can't ignore them. They still has to fall on this top 10 list, and that's why he goes 10 for me. Going to my number 11 is Tucker Kraft. I really like Tucker Kraft this year. He finished as the tight end 10 last season. He had about 13 red zone targets and caught 11 of them, which is insane efficiency. He had 7 touchdowns the last season to go along with all that. He's second in yards per route run. He's second in yards per target. He's second in yards per reception. He's very clearly the guy in Green Bay, like the number 1 tight end, I should say. that there were some questions going into last season. Those questions are gone. Tucker Kraft is the guy over Luke Musgrave. And honestly, this receiving room is still so up in the air, and they didn't add a number one receiving threat that there's no fear to me that they're going to take away from his targets. If anything, they might upgrade his targets and give him more because he was so efficient with what he did last season. At number 12, I have Colston Loveland, another rookie the Chicago Bears drafted in the first round. He's battling Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is already on the team. However, I think Cole Kmet you're going to see take a lot more of the traditional tight end duties, and we're going to see Colston Loveland take over more of the receiving duties. He is a very, very talented receiver. He's a guy that I'm kind of weary to draft. I wouldn't probably be taking him as my number one tight end, and I don't usually take backup tight ends in drafts, but maybe in the last pick of the draft, I decide I want to take that risk with Loveland. But other than that, there is a lot of risk involved, but I put him at 12 because the ceiling is definitely there. There is a chance that his talent just takes over and they're targeting him all the time, and yeah, so there is a reason to take him. There's a reason I put him at 12, but I do fear that not only the tight end room too crowded, but then you also have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden in the receiving room. It's a little much for me, so he has to go at 12, even though he is ultra talented. Then we go to my number 13, Dalton Kincaid. I tried so hard to make a case because I have this gut feeling that like Kincaid will turn it around and be closer, not the guy, but closer to the guy we expected him to be last season. And you look at the stats and you're just trying to find a way to find a narrative to fit for this guy to say like, hey, he's going to be the guy this year. Look at this. And it doesn't exist. You look at his stats, there's just nothing. I'm looking at him right now. There's nothing to point out. There's nothing I can sit here and tell you like, oh, well, he does this very well. He doesn't. But with all that said, they don't have a number one. And if Kincaid can ever take the step forward he needs to be the guy that they drafted him to be Josh Allen's Travis Kelce, as a lot of people were saying, including myself, last season, then he has to do it now. This has to be the year he does it, and there's the opportunity for him to do it. Again, I'm not taking him as my number one tight end, but maybe last pick of the draft, I'm taking a chance on him to be that guy. Again, I don't take two tight ends, so I'm not doing that. But if you're a team that does, or if you're in a best ball league maybe, he's absolutely worth a best ball draft pick late in the draft just for potential ceiling. I mean, he's got a ceiling. Like, that's one thing about him. He absolutely has a ceiling. So maybe in a best ball, not maybe. In a best ball, I actually do really like taking him. But in traditional standard fantasy football leagues, you're probably not drafting him. To be fair, you could say that about all the tight ends left. At number 14, we have Jake Ferguson. When Dak Prescott is healthy, Jake Ferguson is a huge beneficiary to that. In 2023, in the red zone, he would receive 25 targets, which was number one among all tight ends. Dak very clearly likes targeting him in the red zone. Now, I don't think he'll be that high again. I actually think George Pickens might end up becoming their red zone target, especially with his strong hands. But he's not going to just stop targeting Ferguson. He very clearly trusts Ferguson with all those targets in the red zone when Dak was healthy last. So I expect him to, again, get some red zone work. Again, we're talking about the tight end 14 at this point. And if we're being realistic, anyone after the tight end 7, 8 typically is not a difference maker for you. He's not winning you. In fact, he's most likely losing you fantasy games when we're talking about tight end 9, 10, 11, and those are the guys on your team. But going into number 15, we have Zach Ertz, who was a guy who I expected to be absolutely done. I expected him to not be anything last season, and he came in and surprised all of us. He's currently going as the 19th tight end, and I don't quite get that. I obviously gave him more love, put him at my tight end 15, because Jaden Daniels trusts him. He threw him the ball a lot last season. Last season, he saw 91 targets. He turned that into 654 yards and 7 touchdowns. In the red zone, he got 20 targets, which put him 4th among all tight ends. This season, I really don't expect anything different. I think he'll still be the #1 tight end on this team. One of my bigger thing with tight ends is red zone work, and Jayden Daniels trusts him so much in the red zone. I don't expect that to change, and that's why he lands at my tight end 15. But of course, let me know what you think. Who do you think should have made the list? Who do you think should not be here on this list? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, and if you want to win your fantasy football leagues, subscribe.